It's another little project I've had going on over the past week on the Jeep is the RCV axles. I'm going to give you some more details on the install and stuff, but I wanted to upgrade the front axle on this Jeep because I don't like U-joint axles. I just don't like the feeling. I think they're cheap and stupid. RCVs are very premium. This is a little bit of grease on there. That's normal. I just installed these. Really like the axles. To be completely honest, they did not fit the first time, and that was no one's fault really. It turns out the 2021 max toe is a little different than the 19 and 20. So RCV was really cool about it. They sent me everything I needed to get it figured out. You know, no complaints there with their customer service at all. In the process of doing all that, I messed up the orange cups a couple times because I had to reinstall much time to take measurements, and they're kind of tricky to take apart. They go together fine. So they sent me new orange cups and all kinds of stuff like that. Very quick shipping. Really good upgrade. It makes the Jeep feel a lot more premium when you're at full lock. You're under a lot of bind. You don't have that pulsing anymore or anything like that. So really happy with the install. Big shout out to East Coast Gear Supply. That's who I bought them through. And they had them in stock, shipped them really quick. And then once I started having some fitment issues with them, they worked with RCV, got me in contact with the right people there, and got me the right stuff really quickly. And my Jeep was down for like no time at all. So not a big deal. Also, those rock sliders, that's another upgrade. And as far as what I'm gonna do next, thinking about doing a little more armor under the transmission oil pan, a little more skid platage. Not gonna go any higher, maybe another ½ inch in the front. Probably not though. It's very capable the way it is here. And I'm probably gonna do some more armor back here to protect this lip when I drop off of ledges. There's stuff that bolts on there that's pretty nice. A new kit just came out for like 300 bucks, so I'll probably do that. And other than that, it's going to stay stock until I rip the bumpers off, and then it'll get upgraded bumpers. Yes, I backed into stuff, and the bumper contacted the body right there. Just the hazards of off-roading, right? This side still looks fine. So Jeep's coming along. Yes, these tires are terrible for gas mileage. They're heavy, but they're very flexy and very puncture resistant, so I like them. And when I do anything longer than an hour drive and I don't want to listen to them and I want to get 20 miles per gallon instead of 14 miles per gallon, I swap them out. Not that big of a deal. Yeah, so full install video to come, and yeah, just want to give you a summary before I do the video because people think that kind of stuff's professional, and I'm trying to be professional. All right, continuing the theme of being immensely productive, I am replacing the factory axle shafts in the front of my Gladiator Sport Max Toe. So if you know anything about these things, the Gladiators are cool because they have Dana 44s, every single one of them. The Max Toe is cool because it has a wider Dana 44 from the Rubicon. Okay, that's why I got it. What's not cool is that Jeep, like almost every other manufacturer, I think in the US probably, a very solid axle truck uses universal joints on the front end. The problem with the universal joint is phasing, right? The more your wheel is turned, the more pulsing there is, called crow hop, a bunch of other things. Phasing is bad. Phasing works in drive shafts because you have two sets of universal joints. You can clock them to have one match the opposite phase of the other one to cancel out the phasing. You can't do that on these kind of axles. So we need to find a solution for that. The solution is RCVs. An RCV is a CV joint. That's what you get in like an old Range Rover or like a Land Cruiser, solid front axle. You know, all the trucks that are around the world known for being off-roady in the bush in Australia and Africa and South America, whatever. Jeeps are mostly driven by fuckboys that want to run big wheels and look like they're an outdoorsman, but really play a lot of video games and spend all their time on Tinder and Bumble. Okay, that's not what I do, obviously. So we need to upgrade this. Yes, everyone's going to say putting, you know, $1,500 of axles in the front of an front Jeep like this is way overkill. It's only got a V6. You know, you're not running a 44-inch tire. Why are you doing that? Well, I don't know if those U-joints ever fail, but every time I go off-road, they scare me because I can feel the phasing, and that phasing, that pulsing is putting more stress on every single component of this Jeep, and it's a Jeep, so more stress is not good. It can barely work the way it is. Also, I tow a really big trailer over there through sugar sand and stuff where some hopping happens, and as soon as you turn the wheel, that phasing exaggerates the front axle hop by a huge margin. So I'm upgrading more for peace of mind, and also just because I don't like universal joint front ends. So there's a good look at the factory one. You can see that it wasn't really going bad or anything yet, I don't think. I'm gonna put it in the vise and play with it. I did have some popping noises and stuff I'm hoping that the CVs will eliminate. It's a dry axle tube system, so you can always use a little bit of rust there. Those seals are really fun to change. It has this little dust seal thing here that just kind of spins on there. Doesn't really do a whole lot. The RCVs don't even bother because the SST seal, which is this big orange thing, you know, it kind of get in the way. So the way this thing works is that's like a CV boot, but it's not a boot. It's a hard plastic, and it seals against the outside of the cup. That's kind of the way the Lexus knuckle worked, right? The Lexus knuckle's a ball. So they kind of took that idea from there with the wipers on Lexus, and they say it's 100% seal. I probably believe them. Who knows how long that seal's gonna last. But the cool thing is there's a grease zerk right here, and because this truck doesn't have locking hubs or anything like that, I can just pop off my center caps and I can grease my bare fields. I guess it's not even called a bare field in this truck, it's just called an RCV. But anyway, so that's a really nice feature. And then there is a pretty big opening there, but I don't love that. You know, mud and water will eventually get in there. That little thing wasn't doing a great job anyway, so there's plenty of mud in that tube already. So these axles are pretty corrosion resistant and everything, so probably nothing too, not too much to concern about there. The hardest part about this is actually getting this SST seal to snap over the boot. You can't put it in installed like that because the CV joint, the outer joint, actually expands that orange piece, and it wouldn't fit through the hole in your hub once your bearing's removed. So you have to push the orange thing in and then put the axle through it. Pushing the orange thing through that hole is already kind of, also they say stick a zip tie in the gap there, so you can break the airlock to push it in. That's a great piece of advice. What they don't show you in their video is that they give you a tool. So this sits behind the SST tool, SST seal, and holds it in place while you push the axle, and that sits right in there. Okay, so that's really nice. They didn't show that in their video, and it'd have been really hard to do without that, so I'm glad I figured that out. My axles didn't come with any instructions. That's annoying, but they have a pretty good video on their website. And then as far as getting it, so you get the tool back here, and I would show you this, but it takes two hands. I don't have one in a video today, so I'd show you me doing it. So you put the tool back here, that holds it, and then you really just have to stand up, put all your weight against the axle shaft, and push it in there using a zip tie in between this gap to break the airlock. Otherwise, you'll never get in there. And then it snaps in. It takes a good amount of force. Another thing I didn't tell you in the video is that they supply new bolts here. These are like half inch Torx, or not Torx, 12 points. A regular 12-point socket doesn't fit super good on there. I had to tap it on with a hammer, which was kind of nice because it wasn't going to come off anytime soon. But you might need a special socket for that if you don't have that in your toolbox. Everything else is really straightforward. You need a big impact for this 36mm nut, but everything else is really gravy. I continue to have a little bit of popping noises from these ball joints, and it's probably because the way that insert is in the, so it's aluminum knuckle with a steel insert that you're torquing in against. So I don't know if it's going to take several iterations of retorquing these things, but still getting some noises from the front end. At least I was yesterday doing some off-roading. You really don't notice it much unless you're in really deep sugar sand and turning a lot with the big trailer on the back. So hopefully these RCVs will help with that a little bit because there'll be less phasing, so there'll be less hopping, so there'll be less abuse on the ball joints. So RCVs are good for the rest of your drivetrain, except when you consider the fact that they're not going to break, something else will. LOL. These RCVs have a lifetime warranty. They're rated for a 30 or 43-inch tire, and I got them from East Coast Gear Supply. I have a really good contact up there. If you need to get a hold of him, call Paul at East Coast Gear Supply. You must put your seal over the passenger outside shaft before you mate to the joint. Mine didn't come with instructions. Maybe the instructions tell you that, but their video sure didn't. The problem is this diameter here, these splines are okay, but there's a lip, and you cannot force this over that. So you got to put it on from this side, which is the opposite of how you do the driver's side. And they don't tell you that anywhere. So you got to put this over here first, get it on there, then assemble your CV. Then that's the reason you have to jam this through the hub, which it barely fits through. I get they were trying to make this axle as big as possible. They didn't want to waste any strength, so their tolerances are tight, right? This hole is barely big enough to fit that orange seal boot thing through. But man, if you don't know that sequence, it's really annoying because you have to do it by trial and error, which means I had assembled all mine, which put it together, and then I had to go back through and separate this joint. That's not what you want to do with a brand new axle because, you know, separating it can involve getting contamination in there. You don't want to scratch this right here. That's a sealing surface and everything. So that was a little